Well, let me speak for them for a moment. They're merely conforming to the ethos that they have inherited when they entered into these institutions. They didn't bring wokeness with them. They didn't invent wokeness. They're just trying to get by. And by the way, many of them are deeply ambivalent about it. I think your characterization, your broad brush of South Asian, therefore adherence to this wokeness, is not accurate.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to be reacting to a video of Glenn Loury and Amy Wax, where Amy Wax basically blamed immigrants or Asians or Jews for the worsening woke problem, and how Glenn Loury brilliantly responded to it and gave a very sharp takedown or sharp rebuke of her position. So let's get into it.
Now that doesn't mean that this influx of Asian elites is unproblematic. I actually think it's problematic. I don't think it's problematic because of dysfunction or underclass behavior, because we're not seeing that. Although if we had mass migration from those countries, I think that would be a different matter. I think it's because there is this, let's call it danger of the dominance of an Asian elite in this country. And what does that mean? What is that going to mean to change the culture? And that's not a popular idea to say that, like, why would you ever say anything?
Well, what's the danger? What would be wrong with having a lot of Chinese or of Indian or Korean engineers, physicians, computer scientists, and whatnot running around here, creating value, enlivening the society? I mean, I don't see how we lose from that. How do we lose from that?
Well, does the spirit of liberty beat in their breast, Glenn? That is my question. Now, whenever I say that, here's what people say. Well, I mean, if you look at, like, the white...
Okay, so what exactly, like Glenn has asked, what exactly is wrong with the culture being changed? What is the problem with having the dominant Asian culture in America? Because American culture is already shifting, so what's the problem with tilting towards more Asian-dominated culture? Culture is dynamic, it's never going to stay stagnant forever. It's going to change at a certain point, and I can bet you that American culture from 50 years ago is quite different from what it is today. So what exactly is the fear that Amy Wax has? Okay, so she says, does liberty beat in their hearts? Well, don't you be thinking that it's only the Westerners that have the idea of liberty, of freedom, of good governance, of small government and all that. If by Amy Wax's standard she wants people who vibe more with Western values, with American culture, American values, she might want to exclude many people from Africa. But I can tell you that many people from Africa would meet that criteria, especially from, say, a place like Nigeria, would meet that criteria of aligning even more with conservative Republican ideals than even the liberal ideals that Amy Wax is against. So she would be better served by even having people from non-Western countries come into America, because they are less likely to be woke that Amy is concerned about. They are more likely to be much more conservative. They are more likely to even align more with the conservative thoughts than with liberal thoughts. So I don't see why that should be a problem. I don't see why the change in American culture should be a problem. Except she wants to say that white culture is American culture exclusively, and any other culture is not accepted in America.
And, you know, I think it's been written about, Asians tend to be more conformist to whatever the dominant ethos is. So the wokeness, I'll give you an example of what concerns me, okay, of the sort of thing that's happening. And it's very caught up with the fashionable multiculturalist anti-American sentiments that wokeness represents, because wokeness is now the luxury belief of the upper class, and that's what Asians think they have to ape if they're going to be upper class. They look at, you know, upper class white people and see what they believe, and they say, well, we have to believe what they believe because we want to be upper class too. So if you go into medical schools, you'll see that Indians, South Asians are now rising stars in medicine. They're sort of the new Jews, I guess you could say. But these diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, which are poisoning the scientific establishment and the medical establishment now, and I really think they are, who are the people on the front lines? South Asian women doctors. They are there at the barricades saying,
Okay, so Amy Wax is concerned that these people are so conformist that they will adopt the dominant ideology of the society that they've immigrated into. But isn't that a net positive thing? I mean, if these people are coming to America and there's a culture, there's a dominant culture, isn't it a good thing that they are easily adopting of that culture? So if woke is the culture that they found themselves in, how is it their fault that woke is the culture? I mean, they didn't bring it from where they were coming from. They didn't invent it. They met it in America and they're vibing with it. Is that not what Americans have been calling for all this while? That people are not integrating into American society. When they come, they remain separate. They have their own separate enclaves. But these Asians are coming into these elite institutions. They met wokeness there and they've adopted wokeness. It isn't their fault. Ask yourself, where did this wokeness come from? And where is it going to be preponderant? I'm sure that you're going to get more wokeness from people who come from, say, Europe, Western Europe. If she's concerned about Asians adopting wokeness, imagine how much woker it will be when people from Western Europe start immigrating massively into the US. Because however bad the Asians are adopting wokeness now, it will be worse if it's worse the Europeans adopting wokeness once they get to America. Besides, they did not invent this thing, as I said. They came to America and they met that culture. They met it there and they've adopted it. So I want to ask Amy Wax, would she have had a problem if conservative values were the dominant culture currently in elite institutions or in America? Would she have had a problem if the Asians coming in there were adopting those conservative values? They were adopting those right-wing Republican values. Would she have had a problem? I don't think so. So I don't think it's them adopting the dominant culture. I don't think that it's the propensity with which they adopt the dominant culture that's the problem. I think she has a problem with wokeness, or she has a problem with the way these elite institutions are being run. And that has nothing to do with these immigrants. They did not invent this problem. They came and they met the problems and they're just vibing with it. So probably Amy Wax can do very well with fixing American problems so that people who emigrate to the US do not adopt such problematic tendencies.
oh, America is a racist society. It's an awful, terrible society. Of course, they chose to come here from India. Nobody.
So where did they get this notion that America is a racist society? Where did they get it from? Did they bring it from their home enclaves? I mean, if they had those ideas from their home countries, I doubt if they wanted to come to America. They certainly got it from American culture. They certainly got it from American media, and they certainly got it from many whites in America who believe that America is a racist, irredeemable country. So perhaps you should try and fix the root of the problem rather than trying to address the symptom. The symptom is what the Asians are doing is just a symptom of the larger problem in American society. So I don't see how that is their fault. I don't see how that is their problem. I see that as an American problem which needs to be fixed. Because however it goes, the people that come there, it's a good thing that they adopt the culture that they get to meet in America. It's a good thing because it reflects the values of society. So if woke is the value of American society currently, it isn't the fault of the Asians that they are propelling such wokeness.
Ever ask them, like, why are you here? It's a terrible, awful, racist, irredeemable, evil society, and we need to revolutionize and reform it. Why are South Asian women saying that?
Well, Amy,
I can tell you why they're saying that. They are just parroting what they heard from American media. They are parroting what they heard from American society. They're parroting what they heard from other Americans, from whites specifically. So it isn't their problem.
Why are they in the forefront of accusing us and of advocating anti-American
what has their
sentiment?
South Asianness got to do with it? I mean, you just mentioned Jews yourself. You and I are both academics. There are a lot of Jews in the academy. The academy is rotten with the very wokeness that you're condemning. Am I going to blame the Jews for that?
Well, yes. I'm Jewish. I blame the Jews for that.
She said it. Everybody, she said it. I didn't.
Jews
Okay.
have abused their power. They have abused their promise.
I don't know why he's that uncomfortable that the Asians are dominating. They're dominating for a reason, except you want to discriminate against them. That's the only way you're going to stop them from dominating or even stop them from coming there, which, is sort of anti-American. So I think her fears are unfounded. I think that she's just afraid that probably whites are going to lose some of the power, some of the influence, a lot of the influence that they currently have, and she feels threatened by that as a white person. yeah, I think Amy Wax identifies more with being white than with being Jew. Well, to me, Jews are white, so I don't see any distinction anyway in that regard. But I see it as an unfounded fear that she's just been afraid for nothing, because whatever these minorities are going to do in America is a reflection of American society. It's something that is birthed out of America. It's not something that they're bringing from outside cultures. So if she's afraid of the Asians adopting American ideals that they find here, what about those who are sort of not adopting American values and sort of not adopting American ideals? Is that not the critique of some Latinos, that they come into America and they don't speak English, they speak Spanish, they can't integrate into the society? So which is it? And this is the problem I have with narratives. People have no problem contradicting themselves when they find a position that suits them. I'm very, very sure that Amy Wax will be very, very comfortable with Hispanics integrating into American society, of them learning English and of them taking on American values. Well, the American values that she agrees with, but the ones that she doesn't agree with, then it becomes a problem that these people are adopting this. They shouldn't even adopt these values in the first place.
Abused their power and abused their dominance in the academy, in my mind.
But I don't attribute it to their Jewishness. I would attribute it to the logic of the institutional dynamic in which they're embedded. The academy, which has its flaws, of which the susceptibility to this kind of postmodern relativism and this obsession about identity is one. And so those who happen to be in the academy, I find disproportionately are adherents of this ideology, which I abhor, but not because they're Jews, likewise, not because they're from India.
See, I disagree with you. I think there is, let's go back to the South Asians who just love to bash America and be part of the whole DIE push, right? What is it about them that they are kind of scrambling all over each other?
All right, let me use Amy Wax's logic. The South Asians, they love to bash America, that America is racist. So therefore, South Asians should not be allowed to immigrate to America. Well, if you took a poll of people who think America is racist, you're going to find at the top of that poll white people. European descended Americans are going to be at the top of that. Anyway, I think that most people who would regard America, or most of the woke, because we have to be very, very specific. I don't think it's all South Asians that come to America that believe America is irredeemably racist. So I believe it's the woke of them. So if you're going to combine the woke whites, the woke Asians, South Asians, and you're going to take a proportion of those who believe that America is irredeemably racist, you're going to find out that you're getting more white people believing that America is racist than even the South Asians. So by your logic, should Europeans, people from Western Europe, not be allowed into the US as well? Should they not be allowed to immigrate into the US because somehow white people have the culture of believing that America is an irredeemably racist country? So I don't get that logic from Amy Wax. I don't know. It's very simplistic. Our arguments are simplistic for someone who should be much more sophisticated than this. And I think Glenn is going to give a very beautiful takedown of her position.
To be in the forefront of this. You know, I think there is a certain conformity and sort of instrumentalism to the way they see rising in a society, which is, you know, forget the principles, forget about whether it's true or not, forget about whether America is a good place, a bad place, or a middling place. We see that this is the trend, and we want to get on the bandwagon and be important and powerful and prominent, so we're going to be a part of this. And it's mindless. I mean, why should someone who immigrated from India, no, let me finish, and has taken advantage of everything our society has to offer, who is leading the good life, who is part of the elite, why shouldn't that person be abjectly grateful and, you know, recognize overtly all the wonderful things about our country? Why should they be on the ramparts bashing our country?
Yeah, they're doing that because the white people told them. They are doing that because they learned it from the white people. They are doing that because they heard it from the white people. And so it's not their fault. Probably Amy Wax should talk to white people to stop promoting the narrative that America is a racist country. She should talk to people like Robin DiAngelo, who is making bucks off preaching that America is a racist country. Or to talk to people like Kendi, who is also American, who is going about saying that America is a racist country. So it is an American problem. It's not a problem of these immigrants coming into America. It's a narrative that they met there and they're just going to parrot it. So it's not their fault. Probably you should address American culture. That is the problem.
Well, let me speak for them for a moment. They are merely conforming to the ethos that they have inherited when they entered into these institutions. They didn't bring wokeness with them. They didn't invent wokeness. They're just trying to get by. And by the way, many of them are deeply ambivalent about it. I think your characterization, your broad brush of South Asian, therefore, adherence to this wokeness is not accurate. I mean, I think, for example, I just read Matt Taibbi's recent post about Loudoun County, Virginia, and he says, what was the race story in Loudoun County? This is a short version of his, I think, very fine reporting. He says it wasn't about critical race theory and how do you talk about race and slavery. It was about South Asian first and second generation immigrant families who want to get their kids into the top technical school in the area and who want gifted and talented and who are pissed off at the implicit racism against their success that the equity mongers who say there are not enough blacks in the gifted and talented and therefore we have to get rid of it are the Thomas Jefferson High School of Science and Technology, which is not in Loudoun County, but which Loudoun County sends many of its students to under a special program that was called into question because there are not enough blacks in the, and he says that's the real story that got Terry McAuliffe defeated in Virginia. Brown people, not white people, objecting to wokeness. So
That was a very beautiful response by Glenn because he was able to prove to her that, look, these things you're saying, they did not import it with them. They're just trying to fit into the culture that they find themselves in. So how do you go about blaming a certain culture for American problems? Why would you blame a certain culture for being American, being as American as any other American? If woke is the prevailing culture of the elite in America right now, then what is the problem with the Asians being woke? Well, problem is not with the Asians, the problem is with the American culture, which is tilting woke. And probably that's where Amy Wax should be focused on addressing. And like I said earlier, for someone who supposedly should be smart, it's very worrying that she's that simplistic and in generalizations that she's making. So that's my comments on this video. Tell me what you think in the comment section below. Like, share, subscribe, and also subscribe to me on Substack. So until next time, remain awesome.